Thanks for tuning in to In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And our very special guest in this episode is defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. And I'll tell you what, he is a genius. He is one of those football menses. There's no doubt about it. And his players know that he is. His players respect the heck out of him as a football coach. They also love him as a human being. And we talk about that. We talk about adjustments that he makes during the course of the football game, things that maybe they were doing a few weeks ago that they're going to draw upon and say, look, we weren't expecting this in this football game, but here's what we did when it happened to us earlier in the season. Let's get after it a little bit, and everybody on the same page, all the communication that goes on, everything that it takes to be a successful defense in the National Football League. Lou Anarumo has his players doing. They're excited already, even though it's the bye week. I know a lot of them are excited already about what he's got in store for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're going to like this. Thanks for joining us in the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics from our studio at First Star Logistics, as always, and our very special guest today, Bengals defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. And boy, what a special guest this man is. His defense against the Carolina Panthers was dominant. And Coach, like we were kidding about the other day, should put this first half on a loop, send it to the Hall of Fame so it can just keep being shown over and over and over again how you held the Carolina Panthers to 32 yards on 17 snaps and a half in the National Football League. Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a great half. The guys really executed well, and we really wanted to make a huge emphasis of playing well on third down. We didn't have our best night in Cleveland on third down, and we started off fast, and that really helped us, be efficient in the first half for sure.
When you think about all the injuries that you had, and the guys that had to step up and perform for you, when you took a look at that first half, I mean, there were always some sort of mistake being made, but in terms of gap controlled integrity and all the things that go on behind it, was it pretty close to being as good as it can be?
No, we were solid across the board, as you mentioned, at each level. Guys were making plays, as you saw with Jermaine's interception and then Jesse's interception, and the guys up front not allowing the run game to get going. Those guys had been really successful the prior 2 weeks against two teams that I think Atlanta, they gave up 37 points and almost 500 yards, and then Tampa Bay almost 400 yards and 21 points. So they had moved the ball on some teams, and so we were certainly worried coming in, and our guys heeded the warning and came out and did a great job.
Some of the other numbers here, Coach, because it is mind-boggling to me. I just can't get over it, as you can tell. First half, they had the ball for 8 minutes and 16 seconds. What? For a half? Yeah, a 13-minute and 32-second time of possession advantage to the Bengals in that first half. They went 0 for on third down, 0 for 4, as you would expect. 32 yards on 17 snaps, like said. And then the 3 takeaways. And don't minimize that. I mean, 3 takeaways and a half is just suffocating. It when you thought, all right, I'm going to be down this player, I hope this guy steps up, hope that guy steps up. Did you have any inkling that this would unfold the way it did?
Well, we have great confidence in our guys. We've got really good depth, we think, at some positions, and the guys have stepped up, and you never think it's going to. I'd be lying if I said I think we were going to hold them to 34 yards and a half, but it just played out the way the guys fought and played out really well for us, obviously, and the guys stepped up and did a great job. The guys that were in there for the injured players, so I couldn't ask for any more from them.
As far as injured players are concerned, Coach, I mean, the bye week coming up, some of the injuries on game day, Dax Hill with the shoulder. Is it too early to tell the significance of that injury to Dax that happened against Carolina?
Yeah, I still think we're still finding out, all the details and how long and all that. So hopefully the next few days we'll know.
But guys like, we know Cheeto obviously is going to be on injury reserve, unfortunately, with the ACL surgery, but Tupou with the calf, DJ Reader with the quad knee issue, Mike Hilton broke his pinky in 3 places. Jeez, against Cleveland, and stayed in the football game, finished the game. He's having surgery, and then, of course, the bye will help that. Trey Flowers with the hamstring. Do you expect some of those hands to be on deck after the bye?
Yeah, I think guys are trending in the right direction for sure. And, whether we have some or all of those guys, we'll see when we get back next week. But certainly I would anticipate having, more than 2 or 3 of them for sure.
I know during the bye, one of the things that you do is self-scout, and see if there's any trends or patterns that you need to break or whatever the case may be there. I do know that you and Zach over the years have, even when you were assistants together, you've kind of bounced things off of each other to prevent that during the course of the season on a week-by-week basis. But will that go on? And I guess before you go through that process, what do you think that your defensive football team has been most consistent doing so far?
We've done a good job of taking the ball away. We want to, continue to keep that trend going. I think, it's just our level of play. It had been really good in the red zone and third down. The red zone we were doing well Sunday, and then second half got a little bit out of sorts. But you keep up those situational areas, and that's so key to winning. You can take the ball away, you play good third down and red zone, you're going to have a chance to win a bunch of games. So we want to make sure we improve in the areas, explosive runs, explosive passes. We don't want to give up any of those. We can do better there for sure. And then just the overall consistency of our play, I was happy with in the first half of the year. It's got to continue.
That's the thing too in the running game. In the first half, the longest rush for Carolina was 6 yards. For the game, it was 1 yard better, a 7-yard run. 7 carries, 23 yards in the first half. You stymied that running game, and Foreman had come off back-to-back 118-yard rushing days. I mean, it wasn't like their offensive line wasn't doing a pretty good job of moving people, but they just could not get that done against you.
No, and part of it, number one, he wasn't. We weren't going to let him catch us off guard. Foreman, he had popped a big run in the divisional game against the Titans last year, so we were well aware of what he was capable of. The players were for sure, and and then you just keep getting the ball back to the offense, and they're scoring every time they get it, so that makes it harder for them to keep the running game going. And then you force them to pass, and then the result is what it was. So just happy across the board. I thought it was a great team effort.
Obviously, Coach, fans are going to be like, boy, from the Cleveland game to the Carolina game, it's like North Pole, South Pole, it's Jekyll and Hyde, it's whatever you want to term it. I guess as the first coach that ever said this to me was a great high school football coach that I had, that I respect, God rest his soul, to this day. Very, very bright guy, very good football coach. And I remember him saying, hey, Lapham, you know what? You're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. That's you as a player. That's us as a football team. And that's the bottom line, really. I mean, I've heard it many times since. But, to have a problem against Cleveland and then to correct it to the level that you have against Carolina, do you think the norm is somewhere in between that, Coach?
Yeah, for sure. We've done too many good things before that. Again, first and second down really wasn't the problem against Cleveland. It was just getting off the field on third down. They had certainly a few runs that we'd like to have back, but we're definitely trending in the right direction there for sure.
As you look at it in the second half of the season from a schedule standpoint, got Pittsburgh, obviously, in Pittsburgh, and then go to Tennessee, 2 road games. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Watson will be back for Cleveland, I guess, unless others step up and say, me too, or whatever. Tampa Bay, you got the GOAT down in Tampa Bay. New England's got a good young quarterback working with them. Buffalo has Allen. Baltimore has Jackson. My goodness, that's a litany. That's a murderer's row of quarterbacks. How do you feel like not just sacks but pressure? Just consistent pressure on quarterbacks. Have you felt like it's gone pretty well this year, and is that going to be a huge deal down the stretch? Obviously.
Yeah, I think so. We certainly like to have a few more sacks than we have right now, but you can see the pressure that we're causing on the quarterbacks. They feel it. There's probably 2 sacks on this past Sunday that, the guys, Walker's a good athlete. He's able to get out of the, really Trey had him dead to rights, and he just spun out of it. So, there's some things we can finish a little bit better and have some coordinated rushes a little bit better, and that'll help with the overall thing. But we've been consistently getting pressure, and that's what's important.
So how about the young guys on the back end, Coach, in terms of doing what they're supposed to do, being where they're supposed to be when they were supposed to be there, and all that good stuff? Was it pretty strong against Carolina? And do you feel, I know there's probably like, oh man, how sophisticated do I get? How much of a burden do I put on these young guys, to add to what they're dealing with, just playing so few snaps in the National Football League anyway? How much does that affect what you try to do, striking a balance there in terms of game planning?
Yeah, I think it's important that we have a good feel for who's out there and when. But to be honest, we didn't scale back at all this week, and gave everybody the normal full game plan, and they handled it great. Again, our assistant coaches do a great job. Starting with Hobb up front, and then Betch with the linebackers, Rob with the safeties, and Chuck with the corners. So I feel like we can, if there's some in the game that's not going the way it's supposed to, we can adjust, but they handle all of it well.
That's great news. That's great to hear right there. Coach, you've mentioned this before, and I think it's probably as great not a secret, but as maybe a requirement to be a successful coach, not only in the National Football League, but almost any level. And you do it as well as anyone that I've seen. The idea of, okay, find out what my players' strengths are, and I'm going to scheme to accentuate those strengths. I'm going to let my guys go out there and showcase what they can do best. I mean, that just raises the confidence level of the players so much, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And, not asking them, as you mentioned, not asking them to do something that maybe it's not their, best attribute, and trying to, minimize what their weaknesses are, and maximize their strengths. I think that's something we strive to do, and at all levels of the defense. And sometimes you're able to do it a little bit more for a different position. But at the end of the day, we've got a bunch of good players, a bunch of smart players that are in tune to what each call means and why we're doing it. And I think that has a lot to do with our success, that they have taken ownership of it, and the players have done a great job.
You have something going, Coach, when I've heard you many times, give Pratt credit where credit's due, and deservedly so. And then he's talking about on the interception, saying, yeah, that wasn't me. That was Coach Anarumo. We're in base defense. He knew what they were going to do. We kind of, okay, that's what they're going to do because we're in base. They're going to try to do this. And he got the nice depth and got the interception. And he said, that coach put me in like we were just talking about, coach put me in a position to make a play. I felt like I had to make it. That was a hell of a play he made, wasn't it?
Yeah, and God bless Jermaine. I mean, he's out there, the ones making a play. I appreciate the kind words from him, but he made a hell of a play. And, and he's done that before, for us in the biggest of situations on the final drive of the playoff game, and, and all the way through last year and up and through this year. So, yeah, terrific play by him, and just shows you how flexible we can be at that position.
How is the communication, Coach? I know that's a big thing to you, is there's no such thing as over communication. And man, that has been a strength, I think, all season long of your defensive football team. With the new components that were in there, was the communication still at a high level in your estimation?
Yeah, I mean, you got Jesse and Vaughn back there from the back end standpoint, and so they're not going to allow it to be anything less than what it needs to be. Logan and Jermaine do a great job communicating with the front. Sam and Trey, they can communicate things to the inside guys as well. So we've got it set up where each guy is responsible for certain things, and so far, it's really held up no matter who's in there.
You mentioned Cheeto. Like he's going to be having surgery in a few days, and even before he goes and has the surgery, he's talking to you about, I want to be there, I want to be in meetings, I want to be somebody that players can come to and just pick my brain. I'm going to raise questions to them. I'm going to challenge these guys. I mean, just the epitome of a leader. Awuzie is one of a kind, isn't he?
Cheeto's unbelievable. Got great, nothing but the best for him. Thoughts about him and how he goes about his job as a professional. If you had 11 of him, boy, you wouldn't lose many games. He's terrific. I mean, him and Mike, the two guys that Cheeto's going to have season-ending surgery, and Mike had the thing done to his finger. And so this past Wednesday before the Carolina game, Mike had surgery at 7:30 in the morning, and he's sitting in our defensive meeting, I think, at 1:00 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Cheeto's in there with his crutches, and the guys that usually are going on IR, they're not sitting in meetings. That's just not the norm in this league. And again, it's a tribute to how they feel about each other and how well they want to do. Cheeto did not want to be in the press box during the game. We set up a barricade for him behind the bench so that, God forbid, somebody came over, and he wanted to be right next to his guys. And it just, again, it speaks to who they are as men and how they feel about each other.
That's unbelievable, Coach. I mean, man, relationships, the bonds that are formed in relationships are built off of trust and respect. And man, these guys, player to player, there's that, but then player to coach, coach to coach, coach to player. You guys have it going on now. I mean, there's so many examples of it, and you just laid out two of the most unbelievable that I've heard. I mean, like you said, a lot of guys, they go on IR, even if it's a successful situation going on. It's like, oh man, I'm done. Sometimes it's guys feeling sorry for themselves.
Sure.
Sometimes it's guys saying, oh yeah, well, I don't need to do that. I'm not going to do it. These guys, they get over feeling sorry for themselves like that. And it's like, what can I do to help? That is so special. It's so unique.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And it's like, as I mentioned, it's certainly not the norm. And I'm just glad they're on our team.
Yeah, no question about it. So speaking of the bye, what's in store for defensive coordinator, soon to be head coach Lou Anarumo during the bye week?
I appreciate that. We're going to do some self-scouting here. We've been looking at things today. We had practice this morning with the guys. So we'll look at ourselves as you mentioned earlier, today and tomorrow. I've already peeked at, Steelers, obviously starting to work on that. I peeked at the Titans and the Kansas City already too. But not to get too far ahead, but I have. And then my wife and I were going to head. My son's a sophomore at WVU. So we're going to go over there. He's working in the football office as a student assistant. And so we're going to go I'm going to actually go to a tailgate and sit in the stands and act like a complete idiot in the stands, I think, and just start yelling at all these bad calls that these coaches are making and see how the other half lives. You know what I'm saying, Lap?
Coach, I hear you, man.
I wouldn't have done that. One of those.
Right. You'll be one of about 70,000, however many fans there are down there.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be wild. Yeah.
They're all coaches, man. Every one of them. There's no doubt about it.
Definitely looking forward to relaxing. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. That's for no question about it. So Coach, when during the course of a season, when as a defensive coordinator, do you think, all right, well, I've got all of these things I can do from a configuration structural standpoint, all these change-ups, this and that. Do you have an idea of when you may, at what stage you might incorporate a change and another? And obviously it's cast in jello, not in stone, because injuries and other things dictate different scenarios. But do you have something like that laid out for a whole season, or do you do it as it comes to you during the course of it? I mean, is it not predetermined, but do you have all of these ingredients, and it's like, I'm going to do this in the first quarter of the season, this in the second quarter of the season, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, everything we do is just trying to win that particular game that week, and you never want to say to yourself, well, I held this off. You may have something in the plan that if things are going well, that you might be able to hold off into the second half of a game. And we've done that before. But yeah, everything we do, we got all efforts to win that particular game for sure. And things kind of trend during the season sometimes just, based on, hey, we're playing way more of coverage X than I thought we would this year, and then maybe have something off of that. And that's kind of how we go with those type of things.
So, I mean, offensively, when we had really smart quarterbacks like the Bengals have now with Joe Burrow, but we had Kenny Anderson, Boomer Esiason, and guys like that, it'd be like during the course of a game, okay, well, hey, guys, this wasn't really in this week's game plan. And even though it's week 10, what we were doing here in week 2, you guys remember this? Remember what we called it? And this is perfect for this, what they're doing to us in this football game. I mean, is that a situation where you have smart players on your defensive football team and anything that's been installed is theoretically banked away that you can pull it out of the vault, pull it out of that bank anytime?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, to answer your question, yes. We had a situation in a game early on Sunday. They had gotten to a wildcat formation. We had talked about going into the game, doing a particular thing against it, and then right after the play, they really didn't have any success with that particular play. I just say, listen, let's just do this in this package, and then if they come out and we're in nickel or DBs, let's do something else. And it was something else, and they were like, okay. So it was an easy adjustment on the field. And just because I didn't like how it looked and I just wanted to give us a different opportunity, if that was going to be a trend of the game, and our offense did such a great job that, it was going to turn into a pass game. So all that stuff went away. But yeah, our guys can handle pretty much anything.
Your defensive football team has such a great demeanor about it. You know what I mean? It's like, there's never any panic. There's always, let's keep grinding. Let's go back to work. Let's get after it. That's going to stand you in good stead for the course of a long NFL season, isn't it?
I think so. One of the I made mention earlier in the week to somebody that, or yesterday, earlier in the week, it's Tuesday, yesterday, I said, one of the first videos I showed the guys in training camp was, we're starting at the bottom of the mountain and we're climbing up, and I had some pictures of some people climbing Mount Everest, and there was a guy with a GoPro, whatever it's called, and they're showing from the top looking down, and that's a scary sight to me. And part of our thing was, we're going to hit some obstacles and just don't look down, and throughout the whole year. And I just think that even in some of the tough situations on the sideline, I remind them, don't look down, just keep going forward. And, they have grabbed that and ran with it. And I think it's important that, we've got a tough back end of the schedule here, and we'll handle it the right way.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that that's going to be the scenario. And the thing that I like best at the bye week, to be +3 and tied for 5th in the National Football League after starting the season out with that -5. That's a hell of a thing. I mean, you guys have really controlled that part of things from the tragedy that took place in that opener, because that was just unfortunate. That's not the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's been incredible to watch, Coach. You've got your defense playing at an extremely high level once again, and I think it's a tribute to not only the intelligence and the ability to put together a game plan, but again, I've always said that when players not only respect but genuinely like their coaches, you got a big time dangerous dynamic there. And I know that your players not only respect you as a coach and they love you, man. They love you as a coach, and they love you as a human being, and that's powerful stuff.
No, I appreciate that, and the feelings are definitely mutual. Trust me, we got a great room. I love walking into work every day, and I'll enjoy the bye, and then but I'm already anxious to get going when we get back.
Appreciate it, Coach. I know
pleasure.
you got a few extra days. Can't wait to see what that game plan looks like against Pittsburgh.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Lap.
You're the man, sir. Thank you.
See you guys.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.